Hi and welcome to another edition of OnSide SA. Budge and I are going to be talking with Steve. There's been some football played around the planet, starting off with the Europa Conference final, Budge.
Terrible game, Paul, for the neutral. You know, hopefully Champions League final on Saturday is not that bad, but you know, two sides that didn't really want to lose. The Olympiacos, they played the final in Greece, so a little bit of a home ground advantage, but I'm disappointed in Fiorentina. Had a double to come with them, Paul, but they were the better team, but just, you got to score. The only time they had a great chance was they went 1-0 down and 2 minutes to go. Gallop had a 1-2 and they got blocked, but other than that, you couldn't complain if you're a Fiorentina fan. Yeah.
Was our man Steve about?
Steve, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm here. I watched it. As you say, it wasn't the best game. You know, both teams didn't want to lose. Olympiacos liked to play counter-attacking football, so they were quite happy to sit back. And in the end, it was their star player El Kalbi that got the winner. It was a good goal. He took it well, although the VAR sort of went on about 2 minutes. Really, it was touch and go as to whether it was going to be given or not. But in the end, that was the deciding factor. And good luck to Olympiacos, the first Greek team ever to win a European trophy.
Gee, I never knew that.
Yeah, this I think who else has even been close, but wasn't there one Panathinaikos years ago?
Panathinaikos lost to Ajax at Wembley, if I recall. Something like 71. Cruyff was at his pomp at that time.
I suppose all the souvlaki and that would be going down well at lunchtime with all the Greeks. All the T Romanos would be closed today. Yeah. Anyway, Steve. Back to last weekend, and disappointing for Leeds losing at Southampton, or losing against Southampton.
Third time this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, third time, but Leeds do not have a particularly good playoff record. They haven't done well in the playoffs, and yet again, and they didn't play that well.
No,
it wasn't a particularly good game. It was a good goal that won it for Southampton, and in the end. It'd be interesting to see what the fallout is, because I saw the interview with the Leeds owner and chairman a couple of days ago, and he basically admitted that although he feels they have a decent squad, but they're going to have to sell one or two players to balance the books. Yeah. So I think that there's no question. One or two of their stars, who they were obviously hoping to keep on the basis that they would go straight back up, I think will go. And, for profit and sustainability rules, I don't think they have any choice.
Yeah, right. Pity for them. Steve, Chelsea, is that the latest Maresca? Has he got the job?
It seems to be. Evidently, the two sporting directors were over in Marbella, where Maresca's on holiday to tie up the deal. I haven't heard anything this morning that it's been signed and sealed, but I think it's pretty close. I suspect there'll be an announcement possibly today. A huge job for him, but there's no question. He keeps talking. He's going to be a coach. He won't be. He probably won't have a say in who comes in, who doesn't. Who goes out. His job is to coach the players.
Yeah.
There's no question. Chelsea will be selling one or two players to balance the books themselves.
Yeah. You don't want that job. It's poison chalice.
Yeah, you never know, but they've got some good young players. As far as the club is left, Leicester.
Who'll go there?
Yeah, 6 to 10 point deduction, Steve, is that right?
Well, it looks like that they are going to get hit with a fairly big one, because it was only by the fact that they got relegated. Otherwise, if they stayed in the Premier League last year, they would have had that deduction. So now they're back. It hasn't gone away, and evidently they were quite a bit over. So the way that the pundits are talking is that it could be along the lines of the sort of level that Everton got. Now, that's going to be a real challenge. Now, what we don't know is when the hearing's going to be, when, obviously what we don't want is for this to drag on too long. I think, people want to know a bit of certainty what it's going to be. But if Maresca goes and a new manager comes in and he's starting off with, say, 6, 8 or minus 10 points, it's going to be pretty hard. And also for them to attract players. If you're going to a club and you know that you're already sort of, between 6 and 10 points down, you feel like you're going to be fighting a relegation battle from day one.
Yeah, I see Ruud van Nistelrooy mentioned in the list of... you never know. Steve, Man United, Eric Ten Hag, do you think he'll stay or will he go?
It's very strange. I mean, you'd have thought that they would have made their mind up by now. You know, and obviously whether or not the fact that they played well and he won the FA Cup has changed their thinking. If you take that away, then they'll obviously look at last season and think, you know, this was United's worst performance in the Premier League for many a year. And that on its own, you know, would have been enough to have got, you know, managers in the past sacked. I mean, someone like Louis van Gaal, who won the FA Cup and was sacked the next day. So I'm not quite sure this is doing anybody any good. You know, they need to make their mind up. Basically, you know, you sack him or you give him a new contract because it runs out next year. I still don't know what their thinking is. You know, whether or not they feel that he is the right man, and he was very unlucky with injuries and with the sort of issues that went on behind the scenes. But you know, the fact that he basically has just sort of gone off on his holidays now. You know, we're left in the dark. And I suppose the question then is, who next?
Steve, I'll just read you the 7. He signed 16 players, but these are his 7 major players. And Anthony, 95 million. These are euros. Mason Mount, 64. Højlund, 73. Casemiro, 70. Onana, 50. Martinez, 57. And Malaysia, 15. Now, if you're coming into a club and those are your signings,
you're in trouble.
You're in serious trouble. And the thing he's moaned about injuries, I do get it. But when we got beat 7-0 by Liverpool last season, I went and had a look at the team. 9 of the 11 would have started. That would have been in his best side. And they were. Onana was in goals. Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Dalot. That's his best back 4. Middle of park, he had Fred and Casemiro. So Fred's gone, so I can leave him with that. He had Rashford on the left, Anthony on the right, and Bruno Fernandes. And he had the Weghorst up front. So if you take 2 players out, 9 of the 11 are his players. And the fans are screaming and shouting. You know, if you play that style at Old Trafford next year, you won't get to half time and they'll be screaming and shouting. We got lucky. Man City were off the boil, no doubt about it. United played above themselves. We win 2-1. Now he's entitled to another year. It'll be a fatal mistake. 31 points behind Man City.
What do you think, Steve? What do you think?
Well, no, I mean, I think that, you know, again, it's not good enough. If you're a United fan, then turning up on just a half a dozen games in the season, you know, albeit sort of beating City, beating Liverpool in the Cup, isn't good enough. You know, it's at the end of the day, they haven't qualified for the Champions League, which is obviously paramount. But, you know, as you say, he spent a fortune on players that haven't performed. Now, where he has been fortunate is that you've got players like Garnacho and Mainu who have come through. And I read something a couple of days ago that Ineos are very keen to dip some of these older players and bring in youth. They obviously feel that that's the future, as Alex Ferguson sort of realised many years ago. You know, United have got some good young players coming through their academy. Yeah. Maybe this is something that they're looking at, but I think they need to organise. Obviously, nothing much is going to happen, you know, with domestic football really until you know, with the Euros underway, because obviously there's so many players are away. You know, but you need to get a new manager in place and start looking at signings, because the transfer window opens on the 14th of June. No. So, you know, but I think it's not going to be as easy for them to attract maybe 1 or 2 names that they would like, you know, because they're not playing Champions League football.
Yeah, if he gets another year, I'll be gobsmacked. I think they already had him.
I'm hoping he gets it.
No, he's got no idea. Yeah, the last 2 games I watched at Old Trafford, we beat Everton 2-0. We got 2 penalties. Everton had 24 shots. You could not believe who was the home team. And even the Liverpool Cup game, we were 2-1 down. As I said, I was in the Stretford end. The fans were leaving. And then, you know, because it was just one-way traffic the whole way. And then they made a mistake, bang, 2-2, Rashford should have won it. But if he gets another year on 1 victory, you know, we should have got knocked out by Coventry. It was an inch before we get knocked out. Liverpool should have beat us, and he's, you know, out there to win trophies. It's a pity I couldn't play ESPN. I listened to a Dutch journalist. He said Slot is miles ahead of Ten Hag. He said Ten Hag wants to play the football, and he hasn't got the players to play it, but he still wants to play that style, and it doesn't work. So
story of the Everton,
anyway, Steve, Everton.
Well, Everton are in trouble. I mean, it looks like the takeover with 777 is not going to happen. And in fact, one of the shareholders of Crystal Palace, the American guy Techner, my understanding is he'd be willing to sell his stake in Crystal Palace and buy a big chunk of Everton. Now they need an influx of funds before the 30th of June because of their PSR issues, and so it sounds as if there's going to be one or two at least big names sold pretty soon. Man United are after Branthwaite, who is their crown jewel. I can't see how Everton can hang on to all their players, and then going forward, I think they're going to be stretched to buy much. So I think it's going to be a challenging season again for Everton, especially if they lose two or three of their best players.
Steve, this morning, Sky News that Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle.
I wouldn't sign him if you gave it to him.
They're way down the road.
Well, then Isak must be going to Arsenal then.
Who?
Isak. Alexander Isak, the Swedes.
They got a backup to Isak.
Yeah, they've got the short guy that was at Bournemouth. Is it Wilson? Callum Wilson?
Yeah, Callum, yeah.
No, I would not sign...
Callum Wilson, again, is probably past his best. Is the star. I mean, I think Newcastle fans are going to be pretty disappointed if they, if they sell him because he's obviously by far their top goal scorer.
Yeah.
But again, there are some sort of PSR-ish breaches potentially if they're not careful, Newcastle. Yeah. So they may be forced, but that's not going to look good, is it? With all the talk of the Saudi. Backed owners to about what they're going to do for Newcastle if they end up selling their best forward.
And they're not in Europe, so they're even more under pressure.
Yeah.
Tottenham, go and get the goalkeeper because you need somebody who's miles ahead, Pickford, of what you guys. Go and get him.
Go get who?
Pickford, if I was Spurs. Because you've got to change that goalkeeper. He can't hold his breath. But anyway, Steve, on to the weekend and Borussia Dortmund versus Real Madrid at Wembley. Are you going?
No, but look, it's hard to back against Real Madrid, but nobody fancied Dortmund at all, and here they are in the final.
Yeah.
They've got nothing to lose. They'll give it a go. There'll obviously be the yellow wall will be transferred from Dortmund to Wembley. It should be a good game, but Madrid they know how to win these games, and I just thought you just sort of feel that having beaten Man City, they're the team to win the competition.
Yeah, only thing is with Dortmund, they've scored in every Champions League knockout game, so they are capable of scoring, and they did stick out PSG and Atletico Madrid.
But you would have had to score a goal to have gone through.
No, with penalties. Man City went through on penalties. I mean, Real Madrid penalties. Okay. But, they've done great. George Jadon Sancho, I don't know. Let's see. But I think this is going to...
Who bought him?
Ollie. Solskjaer bought him. I think he's our third highest purchase. Okay. And, I think there'll be goals in this, Steve. Do you agree?
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be goals. I mean, it would be disappointing if it was 0-0 went to penalties. But I just feel that Madrid are going to win it in normal time. But I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
You hope it's close. You hope it's a good game. What you don't want is Madrid to sort of score early and then pick them off after that. So, no, I'm looking for. It's always, always interesting to see. Disappointing that City didn't make it in the end, but but if Madrid win, well, they just underline their superiority in that competition.
True, Steve. Just one stat on Man City: if they hadn't have beat West Ham in the last game, they wouldn't have won a trophy. So, believe it or not,
it shows how close it was.
Shows
how close it was.
Arsenal fans too. Anyway, on to the MLS, which is our major league for the weekend.
Yeah.
And kick off New York City. It's Friday night SA time, or Saturday morning, should I say.
Yeah. Good
thing, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're having a decent season. They've won four. I think they've won 4 in a row now, New York City. So, I fancy them to carry on that form.
Yeah, absolute certainty. San Jose are struggling. -1, 12-10, New York City. Get on. DC United, Steve, at home against Toronto. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, DC are not having the best season. Yeah. Toronto came unstuck last week in a very good seven goals in the game. They lost 4-3. But obviously DC at home, Not the strongest side overall, but they could hold them.
Yeah, I think 27-10 is the right play there. Now, into Miami, I'm all over. Even though they got beat 2-1 at home by struggling Atlanta last night. Steve, and I'd mentioned before the show, that's the first game Lionel Messi has lost when he started since they lost to Saudi Arabia in the World Cup. Can you believe that?
Well, I know, amazing stat. And you think that, there they are, sort of top of the conference. And, I don't think anyone would have seen that result coming.
Yeah, the thing is that this is their last game. The MLS continues because they've got their warm-up games for the Gold Cup, which starts, I think, end of the month. Anyway, New York Red Bulls, Steve, at home against Orlando City. How do you see it?
I think the Red Bulls should be a little bit too strong at home.
Yeah, absolute certainties. I see Emil Forsberg is playing there.
Okay.
Where did he come from?
RB Leipzig. He's the Swedish blonde, number 10. I think 8-10, Steve. Empty out. Philadelphia, I can't believe these are the odds, Steve. 4-10 against Montreal. I know home ground advantage is major, but these odds are too short, surely.
Yeah, you think so. I agree. I think they are too short.
Yeah, 1 win in 10. I know Montreal away from home.
I can't believe how the home ground advantage makes the betting so low. Only in this league, but
yeah, Paul, when Inter Miami flew Vancouver, apparently it's the longest flight you can make in sport in America. It's like 7 or 8 hour flight. Anyway, what can we do? On to page 2, Steve, and Chicago, my man Shaqiri up against LA Galaxy, who won this morning. I fancy LA Galaxy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Chicago are having a really poor season. They're, only New England are below them in the form guide. I would think that Galaxy should be too strong.
Yeah, I've got to agree. No wins in 13. Chicago, really struggling. Minnesota against Sporting Kansas City, Steve. How do you see it?
Well, I think Minnesota should win this. Obviously, came unstuck, but I mean, overall they've got a pretty good record this season.
Yeah.
Played 1 or 2 games less than teams above them, but otherwise I think they're going to be too strong.
Yeah, I've got to agree. -1 was 13-10. Sporting Kansas City, 7 defeats and 9. Away from home, they've lost the last 4. Minnesota all day. Now Nashville, great result last night. 7-10 against the worst team in the Eastern Conference, Steve. Should be a good thing, surely.
You think so? Obviously, they're bottom of the conference for a reason. So I would say, definitely Nashville should be too strong. Yeah,
there's a betting. There were games last night, guys. The betting may alter slightly. Real Salt Lake, you're top of the Eastern Conference, unbeaten in 12, up against an Austin team, slightly showing a little bit better form. Steve, can Austin hold them?
They can, although I was on Austin last week to win away, and they were held.
Yeah.
Real Salt Lake are having a really good season. I think they've surprised everybody. Drawn a few, but they haven't lost since the early weeks of the season. Yeah. So I'm on. For me, I think Real Salt Lake should just edge it.
Yeah, and they scored an injury time to draw at Seattle this morning. So 7-10 looks worth an interest. Los Angeles, Steve, one of the fancy teams to win the whole lot against the Dallas team who don't travel away too well. 4-10, bit short, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're not doing. They haven't lost many games, but they're drawing. They're drawing so many, which is why they're a little bit further down in the conference than I think people might think. But they're a strong team, and they're certainly going to be one of the favourites. But I think they should be too strong at the weekend. Yeah,
I've got to fancy them. On to our final page in the MLS, and we've got Portland at home against Houston. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think Portland just started to show a little bit of form, and I think at home they should be too strong.
And the thing is with Houston, they don't concede many goals. So under 2.5 goals you play. But I've got to agree, of the two, you've got to fancy Portland. Steve, since you've left Vancouver, they've been on a roll. You expect that to continue against Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, look, at home they're quite decent. They lost to Inter Miami, but it sounded like it was a close game. But Colorado are having a reasonable season. Yeah. Not stand out, but they make themselves hard to beat. I think that they probably just about start as favourites, Vancouver, but I think it'll be a close game. Yeah, I agree. You've got to be tight. And last but not least, Steve, Atlanta, who won last night at Inter Miami against the Charlotte team, struggling away from home. Another victory for Atlanta? Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, obviously that was a huge result last night, whether it took a lot out of them, but I think that they should start as favourites.
Yeah, I got to think even money's a good thing, and Charlotte got beat by New York Red Bulls as well. Steve, short and sweet. Next week's International Week, but this week I'd like your best bet and value bet, please.
Yeah, tough one. I think I'm going to go for Portland at home. I think that they might be a little bit too strong. And away, I'm going to go for the Galaxy. I think that they should be getting a result on the road against a poor team.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going for.
So you're going for Phil Neville's team, eh? Portland.
Yeah.
That's in there after getting bulleted. His mate stuck him out, Beckham.
Portland, can they cement their chances?
Yeah, you're right. I'm on New York Red Bulls. I'm on Emil Forsberg. I think it's like 16-10 to win by more than one. Yeah. I'm all over them. And LA Galaxy, got to agree with you. Chicago are absolutely woeful. Steve, thanks as always. We'll speak over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, guys. Bye,
all the best, Steve. All the best. Right, let's go. PSL final position. Sundowns champions every year. Miles ahead. Relegated Cape Town Spurs.
Yeah.
They try to get out of it.
They beat Spurs. Yeah, Paul had a terrible start. So
in the local KZN, Golden Arrows 9th. That's the best we could get from the province.
Best we can get.
Amazulu 11th.
Yeah.
Royal AM 13th. Richards Bay 15th. They're in the
playoffs. Paul, and Chiefs 10th. Can you believe it? 25 goals they've scored in 30 league games.
Who's in charge?
It was the guy that went overseas. He was Pitso's boss. Calvin Johnson.
Calvin, okay. Yeah. All right, well, we got the Nedbank Cup final coming up.
This should be a humdinger, Paul. They're playing this in Mbombela and Nelspruit. And I watched Sundowns play TS Galaxy there. What a humdinger it was. Because TS Galaxy, there's bad blood. The guy broke his leg. And the coaches have been having a go. It's going to court. Paul, a draw's the right play, you know.
The top two teams in the league?
Yeah, 1 and 2, but there was it 23 points difference. So, big time team.
Sundowns, good team.
Good team, Paul. It should be Sundowns.
Did they lose a game?
Yes, the last game. They got home by Cape Town City.
Okay, but promotion relegation is always interesting.
Paul, this is the pressure game. The games are all on at 3 o'clock.
University of Pretoria.
Paul, they've got to get a result first up. They're playing at home. They've met twice this year. And they've drawn both times, but the last time they played a couple of weeks ago, University were going to win the league against Magezi, Clinton Larson's team. And Magezi beat them, and after that they haven't won a game. They played Sundowns in the Cup, they got beat on penalties. So their form's gone out the window. Of the two teams, you've got to fancy them, Paul, but a draw is obviously a big runner there.
So hoping to bounce back.
Yep, Baraka, And then in midweek, Richards Bay, who are second last in the PSL, they're at home against University of Pretoria. So they play each other home and away. Each play...
so will Richards Bay play Baraka?
Yep, on next Sunday.
Okay, excellent.
But tough game, Paul.
Tough games. And on the box?
Yeah, always on the box. Paul, I think it was 12-10, both teams to score. They've both got to go for it. You can't sit back and hope for a draw.
You want the best refs in the country.
Well, I think they will be, Paul.
Because these games are really highly spiced.
The pressure's on big time. The money to come into the PSL is great. And that first division is not an easy league.
Okay, Butch, let's talk about your bets.
Yeah, Paul, the score 6 and 10. I've done Sunday this week, Paul, because most of the games on Saturday, there would be duplicate pools. But this is a Saturday soccer 6. And we've done the American because that's the main league that we're doing. I've got the field in the DC United Toronto game, bankering into Miami to beat St. Louis. I've thrown the draw with New York Red Bulls against Orlando City and Portland. I don't see them losing at home to Houston. I think Real Salt Lake will be too good for Austin. The field in the Vancouver Colorado Rapids game, 2-1-6. The soccer 13 on Saturday as a carryover, but some of these games are not the easiest to predict. I'm chancing Real Madrid to win the Champions League against Dortmund. I'm going Halmstad win and draw at home against Gaze Gothenburg, as well as RK Sirius win and draw against IFK North Copping. I'm bankering top of the league lands Krona Boys to beat Trelleborg, Stockholm Internationale to avoid defeat at Friska Viljor, two bankers, Ariana FC to beat BK Olympic, and Lunds BK to beat Young Copping Sodra. Onto the second page, another home banker, Oscar Hams to beat Eskils Mina, FC Rosenborg win and draw against Norby, and Angel Holmes to be too good at home for struggling Onsala. Onto Norway, I'm going Brand win and draw at Hamar, Cameratine, and Kingsvinger win and draw against Byron. And last but not least, on to Iceland, I'm going KA Akuraqua, win and draw at IA Cranes. On to our score 6 for Sunday, bear in mind. I'm chancing University of Pretoria to beat Barocca. In the relegation promotion game, I'm going in France. I'm going the Field in the Metz and Etienne game. Atalanta in the last game of the season, the Serie A win and draw against Fiorentina. The Field in the Espanyol FC Cartagena game, and Leganes to be too good at home against Elche, and Real Zaragoza win and draw against Albacete 2-1-6. On to the score 10. Albacete, yeah. And this is a Europa League playoff game in Belgium. I'm going Genk to avoid defeat at home against Ghent. Servette win and draw at a neutral venue in the Swiss Cup final against Lugano. I'm bankering Molde to beat Viking FK in the Norwegian League. University of Pretoria win and draw against Barocca FC. The Field in the Metz versus Saint Etienne fixture. Atalanta at home to beat Fiorentina. Espanyol to beat FC Cartagena, and Leganes to beat Elche. Real Zaragoza against Albacete. I've gone all 3 selections, in Atalanta win and draw home against Charlotte 288. Budgie's bets, Paul. As usual, we've got to have a dip. Paul, I'm going New York City to beat San Jose. I'm going into Miami to beat St. Louis, and Minnesota to beat Sporting Kansas City, and all 6 teams to score. So the odds are just getting shorter and shorter, so I had to invent something. So I think there'll be plenty of goals in those games. As far as the team goals, I'm going New York City, New York Red Bulls, Chicago and Vancouver, all to score over 1.5 goals, and into Miami to rebound and score over 2.5 goals, 3,600 to 200.
Tough bets, these.
Yep, over 2.5 goals, both teams to score. I'm going Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid, into Miami, St. Louis, DC United and Toronto, and Atlanta, Charlotte, 2,700 to 200. The Swedish league is in full cry. I'm going Elfsborg to beat IFK Gothenburg. I'm going Malmo to beat Bromma Pochkana, and both teams to score, and over 2.5 total goals in the BK Häcken ARK Stockholm game, 2,000 to 300. On to Brazil, their league carries on. And I'm going for Atletico Mineiro to beat Bahia, Vitória to beat Atletico GO. Both teams to score in the Criciúma Palmeiras and Fortaleza Atletico Paranaense games, 2,600 to 200. Now, Collis King, 6 on Nexa. I'm going Real Madrid to beat Borussia Dortmund, New York City to beat San Jose, into Miami to beat St. Louis, Malmo to beat Bromma Pochkana, Atletico Mineiro to beat Bahia, and Fluminense to beat Juventude, 2,700 to 200.
So, but some good football to look forward to.
Yep. Next week is the internationals, the CAF World Cup qualifiers. Bafana are travelling to Nigeria.
World Cup, what's it? The middle of June it starts, the European.
The European starts on the 15th. The Copa Americas, I think it's the 21st. But plenty of football still to go, Paul.
Still to go. And then, Budge, you think Real Madrid too good?
Yeah, they should be, Paul. Yeah. You know, I just look at the back foot. Paul, that's a tight game.
Tight game, man.
Tight game, you know. Be under 2.5 goals unless you get an early game. You've got to fancy Sundowns to win it. But Pirates, they drew 0 in the MTN8 earlier and beat them on penalties. So there's nothing much between them, Paul, as far as the games go. Obviously, ability-wise, Sundowns are way ahead. Top team, yeah.
All right, Budge. Well, until next time, stay on side.